Good morning. We had a lovely,
very damp morning.
yeah, we had a lovely night's sleep in this car park here.
We did, one of our go-tos, this one.
And now we're going to go
to revisit
the site of the Battle of Flodden Field, which we did in a previous video. In fact, it was probably his first video, wasn't it?
First long video, yeah.
Yeah, and it to be honest, we were quite wooden back then. So it's just up these steps to the top of this hill, and this hill is known as Piper's Hill, a defence position for the English army under the Earl of Surrey, Thomas Howard.
That's woken me up.
Let's just catch his breath first.
Shall we do a quick history then?
Here we've got the memorial cross to the brave of both nations, and this was erected in 1910, and it's the battle, well, it marks the site of the Battle of Flodden Field on the 9th of September 1513, and this is on Piper's Hill where the British led their defence under the name of the Earl of Surrey, Thomas Howard, against the Scottish over on Branston Hill under the command of their King James IV of Scotland.
And it's a little bit confusing in some ways. That's the village of Branston. We're on Piper's Hill, and that's Branston Hill. The Flodden Hill is actually over the far side of there. Now, as we pointed out in the previous video, the Scots had set up on Flodden Hill, guns facing south. The English skirted round them rather than attack, which is what the Scots wanted, and totally skirted round and crossed over a bridge that was only built a couple of years before this battle.
1511.
Only built a couple of years, and the name of the bridge escapes me.
Is it Etal Bridge?
I don't know. Put it in the comment. Put it underneath. And they positioned themselves on this Piper's Hill, forcing the Scots to move rapidly to this hill, Branston Hill. So although it's called the Battle of Flodden, it's actually in some ways could have been called the Battle of Branston, couldn't it? The Scots had big, heavy artillery pieces, cannon, brought from Edinburgh Castle. The English had light manoeuvrable field guns, field cannon. I believe, from memory, that it took up to 40 minutes for the Scots to reload their heavy artillery, whereas the English, I believe those guns could be within 3 or 4 minutes. So as you can see, there's a major advantage in terms of not firepower, but fire frequency. Not only that, but also because they'd rapidly moved their guns, they had trouble getting range. So most of the Scots' cannonballs were zipped harmlessly over the heads of the English, whereas the English, using a gun designed for battlefield battles, were able to get their range pretty quickly. And if they hadn't got the range, they could rapidly deploy it in a different position, lower, so as to get the range. And seeing they were only firing them off at about every few minutes, they were decimating the Scots.
Well, the reason why it's called the Battle of Flodden Field is because in a dip down there is where it generally floods, and as the Scots were charging towards the English, they had 18-foot long pikes, and these weapons, they're effective at speed, so they'll be charging down the hill. And
effective at speed and also in tight formation.
Yeah, and as they reach the bottom where it be water and mud, they come to a standstill basically, so their weapons were more or less ineffective to that extent.
Well, as they came down the hill and got into this ditch, which was undrained and quite swampy, the men at the front couldn't progress, and the men behind didn't realise and carried on forward and actually crushed their own men and pushed them into a swamp, and apparently many drowned.
Some 10,000 men died that day. One of them was the king, the Scottish king, James IV. He was the last British king to die in battle. So, if you're interested in the history of the Battle of Flodden Field, it's well worth a visit. And
check out our previous video.
We have got a previous video. It's his first video. We're a little bit wooden, but bear with.
This is where people are saying they've not got much better.
And there is, in the village of Branston, there is actually the world's smallest museum? Visitor centre. And it's actually...
well, we'll put a picture of it now.
We can drive past it. It's actually an old English telephone box.
Oh, don't give it away.
I am giving it away. Anyway,
that's the overview. Very quick overview. It's well worth a visit, and it's well worth watching our previous video, obviously.
And also, with me doing my family tree, I've got a direct ancestor who died at the Battle of Flodden Field. His name is John Slingsby. So that was a reason for me to visit. Let's head back to the car. Hotel Bilingo. Oh, great night, wasn't it?
It was.
Don't you think?
Yeah.
It's quiet here, isn't it?
It's lovely.
The only sound I could hear were birds. It's just what you want, isn't it?
Same, we've got 10 watts of solar coming in on a rainy day in the winter.
How do you get 10 watts going in with no sun?
It's just...
Oh, it's just the UV rays?
The UV or whatever, yeah. Right. Just the light, yeah.
So, a point to end the video. Thank you for watching. Join us next time on our journey. Where will it take us? We don't plan anything.
Well, we do. We know we're doing just completing the Northumberland 250, and then we're going to be going up to the southwest coast 300.
Yeah.
We know that.
But where will it take us? Join us next time.